Before I commence, a royal disclaimer. This speech, entitled The Revised King's Speech, is, like the first heap of outrageous bullshit called the King's Speech, not conceived or written by me. It has absolutely nothing to do with me, just like Harry. My government's legislative programme is based upon the two-tier principles employed by Prime Minister Two-Tier and the head of the Metropolitan Police, among many others. It broadly states that if you're white, you're shite. My government's every decision will be made with flagrant disregard to all fiscal and humanitarian rules and conventions. It will legislate to ensure that all indigenals, including the most vulnerable groups, are shunned by the government of the United Kingdom. Pensioners will be subject to special attention in this regard, and all monies they have paid into the system for their state pensions over all their working lives will be totally disregarded. Pensioners will be literally hounded to death by our brave new world of Orwellian authority. This will ensure a huge reduction in the number of pensioners and will lower life expectancy in the UK to around 60 by 2029. This will lessen the drain on GDP, so more can go to the voracious, bottomless pit of the dinghy bludgers. Illegal immigration will be legalized. Huge numbers of mainly young men will be welcomed from their dinghies by an army of half-wits into the United Kingdom. Anybody not welcoming them will be subject to harsh punishments, similar to that received by anybody not crying loudly enough at a North Korean leader's funeral. There will be another massive rise in their numbers when they will be no longer required to come here in dinghies. P&O, or another company, will be contracted to bring them over in ferries. Dinghy bludgers' indolent lifestyles will by 2032 constitute the largest cost to the country's GDP at around 75%. To house them, indigenous will be required to give up their homes and go live in the gutters. These measures will increase illegal immigration exponentially. It will result in emptying vast swathes of Africa and other continents into the tiny United Kingdom. Aren't we lucky? All this expenditure and associated massive increase in crime, coupled with the fact that we have dispensed with any functioning police force in the UK.
For any questions at all, just ask, and if any of you are in any discomfort or need anything, just let me know, and we'll try and sort you out in a nice way. Can't phrase that any worse, could I? But no, if you need any assistance at all, just let me know, okay?
Net zero, however, will be achieved by 2030, as there will be fuck all left in the UK to burn, apart from any remaining pensioners. My government will ensure the recent cost of living crises and challenges under the Tories are remembered as a golden era, replaced as they will be by unimaginable hardship, poverty and suffering. It will become so bad that the dinghy scroungers will probably start to leave and go on to another lucky country. My ministers intend to get Britain building houses again, including through planning reform. However, if you've seen the foul-mouthed chavvy they've put in charge of this, dream on. It is perfectly obvious that this poisoned chalice of a policy has been placed in this minister's lap to hasten the demise of her pointless DEI career. My government recognizes the urgency of the global climate challenge and has put a wild-eyed, slobbering madman in charge of it, a man who has succeeded in nothing since he ventured into politics apart from stabbing his brother in the back. This creature, a sobering example of a waste of a perfectly decent pair of underpants, firmly believes that destroying the oil and steel industries will somehow be a damned good idea. He does not appreciate that for many years to come we will need oil and steel and chemicals, etc., etc. Because of the gift we have been given in this failed politician, dredged from the Stygian depths of the loony bin, we will now have to buy oil, steel, chemicals, etc., etc., from halfway or all the way around the world. This will cause twice as much damage to the environment through transporting it, whilst also handing all our jobs to foreigners. When this madman focuses his double cyclops eyes on a problem, he makes Mr. Bean look like James Bond. My government will also introduce a bill to set up Great British Energy. Another fucking quango. My government was to seek to introduce legislation to strengthen the border and make the streets safer, but realizes the people of the UK will see through this outrageous piece of bullshit, and this harebrained scheme will be quietly dropped. Nothing will be done to curb Islamic extremism or the widespread support for terrorists in Trafalgar Square and other public places during unrest masquerading as protest. Like the last pack of weasels to run the UK, this government is not brave, and with Islamic terrorism claiming around 4,000 lives in the UK since 1970, this tradition of gutless cowardice will continue. The government will even double down on it by going as far as introducing laws to protect potential terrorists against legitimate criticism of any kind. On education, my ministers will seek to raise the tertiary education standards for a student in a British university to at least the level of a modestly intelligent South Australian wombat. My government will improve the National Health Service as a service for all, providing care on the basis of need regardless of the ability to pay. However, if you can pay, you will be treated by a doctor rather than left to die in a queue. Mental health will now be as important in the NHS as physical health. Maybe one day it will be so in the House of Commons. My government's first act in this respect will be that all people who voted for this government will have free lobotomies, paid for, of course, by any remaining pensioners. My ministers will also legislate to restrict the advertising of junk food to children who have become such huge, bloated, fat bastards they would even be rejected by the dangerous pedos skulking around the BBC. The totally out-of-control BBC will be allowed to continue on its biased journey throughout the world of journalism without being in any danger of becoming a serious part of it. However, a strict limit will be placed upon the number of disgusting paedophiles employed as the most well-known faces of the BBC. The BBC, however, will continue to be run by a retired fried potato salesman. New legislation on race equality will be published, ensuring that white people will no longer be allowed to walk the streets unless accompanied by a person of colour or at the very least a Welshman. The government will seek to reset the relationship with European partners by covertly rejoining the European Union in an unparalleled act of treachery. As a final act of treachery, My government, through its massive majority in the Commons, will seek to increase the parliamentary term of 5 years to 10 years, and then further increase it incrementally to bring us in line with China, by which time we will, of course, have become their slave colony. My government will help to establish security in the Middle East. It is committed to a two-state solution. It promises this will not end up like the fucking mess of the two-tier solution currently established in the UK. I pray that one day we will have a government that has the country's best interests at heart. I do not hold my breath. In fact, I am thinking of emigrating to a freer society. I am currently looking at a very nice regal property in Kim Il-sung Square, Pyongyang.